So I have a fine art background and I have a kind of insatiable need to create work, to make things. And I felt like as a society we're sort of deeply immersed in visual imagery. And I just felt like if I'm going to make art, then I wanted to create a new visual language that stands out and grabs someone's attention and asks them to become actively involved with the artwork. Then it doesn't matter who they are, they could be anyone. They don't need to have any preconceived idea about art or have any education, they can just enjoy it straight away. A lot of my pieces, there's the need for the viewer to be doing something, so either making a sound or moving around in a space. So you have this kind of dialogue that's going on. The viewer does something, the artwork does something. And in a lot of them, I've kind of been playing with this idea of the community. So you need to not only have one viewer, but you need other viewers in order to make the pieces do more. And this means they're not only having a dialogue with the artwork, but they're also talking to each other in the space, which I think is really fascinating. So once I've got a finished idea, I'll then basically have to try and make it in virtual space, which I do on the computer with a design program. And from that, I'll have an idea of the dimensions and start thinking about materials. I'll then do extensive sort of prototyping, material research, ordering samples, figuring out is it going to be made out of wood, metal, plastic, does it have a special optical effect? And then the great thing about new media is that not only are you doing that, but you're also doing all the electronics. So I do all the soldering and the circuitry myself, which is a huge feat for a fine artist who never really learned that at school. So, but it's great, I love it. That's a real challenging bit for me. Working with my hands I find much easier to do. And then once we've got a circuit, the materials, and I've got a kind of prototype, I then work really closely with a programmer, Jamie Howard, and we basically make the interaction work. A lot of my pieces have been collected by private collectors for their homes. And I also work with larger brands to create commissioned pieces for them. For example, last year I made a piece called The Heartbeats of Cristal, which is for Louis Roederer, that was in the Shard for 3 months. I find new media really exciting because it creates a kind of new way of communicating with people. I think it's quite outdated now to think that art can sort of change the world. I don't think that what I'm doing is going to change the world, but I think it's an interesting kind of idea that artists can be innovators and they can challenge people's perception of not just what art can be, but what life could be like, in terms of design, in terms of architecture, in terms of kind of leading the way forward. I think we're missing that kind of communication with each other and that kind of community. And so that's kind of some of the ideas I'm sort of playing with in my work.